Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all, depending on where you're listening to this week's episode. Thank you for taking another trip down the trail with the John freaking Muir pod. I've got a quick update on listenership of the pod around the globe. We have listeners tuning in 39 countries around the world, including our most recent additions, South Africa, Finland, and Israel. And in the domestic market, we've got folks listening in 49 states and Washington, D.C., missing only the great state of Wyoming. So if you've got friends in Wyoming, let them know what's up. All right, we're going to go back to our roots this week and spend some time with a guest who is relatively new to backpacking and talk to him about he went from brand new hiker to going out on multi-day solo hiking adventures. Our guest this week is PJ. Welcome to the pod, PJ. And is it PJ or should we go by Paul?
Whatever. I mean, a lot of my, first of all, hi, Doc. Thank you for having me. But yeah, PJ, all my friends, well, family, call me PJ or Peach. But yeah, Paul, whatever floats your boat.
Peach. I like Peach. That's good.
That's my sister calls me Peach. She's like works out how to shorten PJ even more. So, yeah.
So PJ is not short enough. We need to shorten it to Peach. And maybe you have some relatives that just call you
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And before we get started here, I need to share with our listeners a startling realization that I just had, in setting up, in reaching out and setting up this whole interview with you. I had no idea that you were on another continent. And I assumed from our conversations that you were on the West Coast just like me. And so I proposed this interview time, not thinking anything of it. And then lo and behold, we get on the line here and I find out that you're in England and it's actually 2 a.m. where you are. So I have to congratulate you for hanging in there and being such a good sport about this.
No problem at all. I was quite taken aback that you invited me on. So I was, more than happy. I went to bed at 10, got a few hours in, and then got up, had a quick shower and a cup of coffee. So I'm good to go.
So this is in the middle of the night. You've already had some sleep. Maybe this is a dream. You could just be dreaming right now. Who knows? You pinch yourself.
Who knows? Last night I dreamt of climbing Everest, and that's shit. That's real. Yeah. So that was quite bizarre, but yeah, it's good.
All right. So, Peach, have you listened to the pod before?
I have. Yeah, I have. I mean, I think it was when I got into hiking, the first trail, but one of the first sort of things that really got my attention was the JMT. And then obviously coming across your Instagram, and it was like the John freaking Muir. I was just like, hell yeah, I've got to be on that podcast. I was like, right. So yeah, I have definitely listened to it. It's great. Lots of cool different stories on there from, endurance athletes to families, and it's very, very cool and good what you do. Really entertaining.
Thank you. I wasn't looking for compliments. I wanted to make sure that you knew about a regular segment we have on the pod, and that's called the Pro Tip Insight of the Week. And right. So we're going to get to a point at the end of the episode where I'm going to turn to you and say, hey, Peach, what's your pro tip insight of the week that you can share with our listeners to make their next adventure that much better? So some kind of insight, some kind of pro tip that kind of just arises out of our conversation tonight.
For sure.
Okay, very good. All right, so Peach, do you have other than Peach or PJ? Do you have a trail name? Have you earned one of those yet?
I have not owned one of those yet. No, I definitely, from what I've read and heard and everything, it's definitely something that's sort of given to you whilst out on the trail. And I've primarily been a solo hiker, so not many people have been out there giving me a trail name, and I don't think it's necessarily something that's done in the UK. I've not heard of it as much or heard of it at all in the UK. So something that I'd be nice to have one day. I suppose it's that's kind of how it all kind of started with me as well, was the whole John Muir Trail, and that's my interest in hiking and wanting to do something. So I was kind of maybe hoping that would have happened for me.
So until you get over here to the States to get on one of the trails and earn your your trail name, I just envisioned this possible episode over there in the UK, in England, where you're on a trail somewhere and you come upon some other hikers, some fellow hikers, and you demand of them, "Hey, give me my trail name," and they have no idea what you're talking about. This could be very
Yeah,
awkward.
they would be if you like crickets, just awkward silence, just looking at me. What you on about?
Hey, let's touch on the JMT, because you told me a little bit before we started recording. So you became interested in the JMT, and I understand you actually applied for a permit on the JMT. How did that go?
Yeah, I did. So when I got into it and everything, obviously I was looking at, I'm the type of person that would need something to really grab hold of, something that would excite me and get me going. And I kind of looked at everything, looked at the PCT, AT, and all the Continental Divide trails, and I thought, not going to happen. Do you know, I think doing 2,500 miles and all that kind of stuff and work wouldn't, just wouldn't happen. And then obviously in doing that and researching loads of different trails that were out there, I came across, or part way of the PCT, I guess, going north is the JMT. So I kind of looked into that and saw that you could do it northbound and southbound, and I obviously then kind of went through that whole process of learning about what you need to do and the application process, and that it was lottery, that I think it was 25, I think it's 35 slots a day. 25 of those are done via a lottery system, 28-day rolling lottery. So I kind of went through the whole process, the application, and I think I'd heard people for years waiting to try to get on there. So I thought, okay, well, chances are pretty slim to none. So I'll just give it a whirl. And then went through it. And then the first 3 days, that was in January the 4th, I think it was. And then 3 days in, just declined. Okay, here we go, that loop. And I had a bit of flexibility on time, but I just thought it's just going to be continuous anyway. And then day 4 came, and then you just get the one. It says, yeah, congratulations, you've got your permit. I was just like, oh, shit, like, this is real. Like, I really need to get hiking now, because I hadn't really done anything at that point. But it really kind of rubber stamped, this is something you need to do now. You can't get a ticket like that and not do it. And then obviously, so I went through looking into hiking gear and absorbed that. I'm the type of person that really gets into stuff. So I'm like, I'll just zone completely. I was looking at every type of blog, video, everything that I could do, looking at, and I made a few little, obviously, mistakes in equipment that like the first pair of shoes that I got were horrendous and not good at all. But then, and then obviously COVID struck, and it was June 28th was my start date. And I was praying. I was just like, please, like, no, this can't be happening. And then obviously it did. And we didn't get out of lockdown properly until, I think it's just around about then, actually. I can't remember exactly the exact date we came out of the real big lockdown. When we're back in lockdown again now, but it's went nowhere near as severe as what it was back then, in terms of the restrictions, at least. Excuse me. And then, I just obviously didn't go. And then it was a case of, right, I've got all this gear, like I need to do something. And then the time was running out, and I was looking at all the various different ones that you can do in the UK. I thought, I can't do, like, there's the Mont Blanc Trail, which is in Switzerland, or just loads of different ones anyway. So I came across this Snowdonia Way, which was it's quite a fairly new hike, and that's kind of that's where I did my first one. So it was kind of, that's the story behind the JMT anyway. So it was just quite, I was really, really, really disappointed not being able to go there, and I was so looking forward to it. I mean, really looking forward to it. But I think looking at it now, I probably best served me that I didn't do it, because it's just lack of experience, and I'd have been going on my own, and I'm pretty sure obviously you meet people, and especially on that particular trail, it's quite obviously frequently sort of visited, even if people are doing sections of it, not necessarily the whole thing. But yeah, I think I quite possibly would have struggled altitude and distance and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Peach, that is a sad story. That's probably one of the saddest stories I think we've had on the pod. That's heartbreaking.
It was, yeah.
But I do have some questions.
Go on.
Okay, so you were gonna go basically from the couch to the JMT. That was gonna be your first one. I mean, was that?
Yeah. It really was. It really was, and it was stupid, completely crazy. And you know, I had a few people probably say that. Maybe I think the closest to me would have maybe said, "Are you sure?" Like, really? A few of my friends were like, "Do you not have TV? And what are you doing?" You know. But I don't know. I needed a challenge. I needed something that was going to fire me up, and I think the whole hiking thing came about a whole change in my life anyway. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I needed it to be quite substantial. I didn't need it to be, I want to start hiking, so I'm just going to start doing 10-mile hikes and see where, see where it takes me. I really needed that.
Yeah, I'm going to venture to say that, you were making the reservations early in January, and your trip was going to be in June. Yeah. And I think if the COVID thing had not hit and you had been able to, pick up your permit and travel and go do the trip, I would say that you would have been successful because you had 6 months, exactly. 5 months to, get your hiking legs under you. And then once you hit the trail, I mean, you're gonna adapt. You're going to listen to your body. You're going to, do the daily miles that you need to do. And I think you would have had a great time. The people on the trail, other hikers, are phenomenal. A great source of support and insight and trail knowledge. So even though you would have been doing it solo, I venture to say that I think you would have been successful.
I'd have hoped so. I think it was just obviously COVID going into, first and foremost, starting in January, it was, the weather's, well, at least in the UK, it's appalling. You don't even have a real nice winter, like snow. It's kind of just crap. Mm-hmm. So I started, everything that I was doing was either in severe cloud and rain and cold. And so it wasn't necessarily the nice. And that was kind of, again, you really have to question, why are you doing this when you start hiking in that kind of weather? To pick it up in January is not an easy thing to do for a first time. When you're coming out, you want to be out and you want it's like nice balmy weather, 20 degrees, shirt, shorts, beautiful countryside. But it wasn't like that at all. It was, I had hailstones, raining, sideway wind, all sorts of stuff. I even went out on a hike during Storm Dennis. So we had a storm over here, and like 50, 60 mile an hour winds and stuff. And it was quite intense. But I was like, I've got to get out. I'm not hiking this weekend. So no storm's going to stop me doing that. And that was really cool as well. So yeah.
That's diehard. When you get into a hobby, you really go full bore, sounds like.
100%. Yeah. I think in anything, if anything really, if it really grabs me, gets hold of me, then I'll and I enjoy it and I have an interest in it, and the kind of reasoning behind why I want to do it is big enough for me to kind of explore it, then I'll absorb it to the extent of wanting to know everything about it. For the whole John Muir Trail, before I even received my permit, I'd already done a full Excel sheet on where I was going to get my resupply, how many days I was going to walk, what the elevation change was. I did a north to south version of it as well. So I did a south to north Sobo, and then obviously Novo as well. But both ones, just in case I didn't get the permit that I wanted. And I thought, and then I had to do it northbound instead, because people were like, yeah, you can go do northbound as well. And it's a bit easier in terms of the permit reservations and all that kind of stuff. So I done, yeah, I mean, I really went to town on it. I really did.
So I'm gonna retract my earlier statement where I said I think you would have been successful. I'm gonna amend that to be I know you would have been successful. I mean, if you put that kind of time and energy into putting that spreadsheet together, there's no doubt. I mean, you would have killed it. That's great. You know, you rattled off a few trails in your earlier description. You know, you talked about the Pacific Crest Trail, the Continental Divide Trail, the Appalachian Trail. The United States is home to a lot of long trails. You know, those in addition to, you know, the JMT, Lost Coast, the Long Trail. There's all kinds of those. And still, when I talk to people and I tell them what I do for a hobby, that I go on, you know, multi-day backpacking adventures from, you know, one point to another, they look at me kind of funny and say, why would you do that? And so I want to know, as you have described your passion and your obsession to your fellow citizens in England, what has been the response to you? I know that Europe has their hiking trails as well. I mean, there's the Camino. I know that there's long distance trails in England as well. But you know, what is their reaction to you?
I think it's just a bit of disbelief. I think to the most part, I think they're not too sure as to why I'd want to do that. And you know, some people get going for a nice little jaunt or a little day hike and things, but wanting to put yourself through multiple days on your own, you know, with just a backpack on, I think is, to some people, at least my circle, my network of people that are around me, at least, they're quite, okay, interesting. You know, it's like, okay, you not have anything else to do with your life, Paul? Why would you want to do that? Even to an extent, I think people thought, okay, he'll get it out of his system, he'll do one, and he'll be done, and then he'll sell his gear on eBay, and that'll be that. And it's just definitely not that at all. I think it's just crazy. I think it's kind of an active, prolonged meditation, especially doing it on your own. I think because your mind is so busy with day-to-day things and concerns and just responsibilities and all of the things that come with just life. I think modern life, especially, and it's great, obviously, hiking with other people. You can chat and do things, but I actually just enjoy, and I like listening to, like, you know, music and like Nirvana and like proper, like, you know, that kind of sort of thing. When I went out, I didn't listen to anything. Like the first time when I ended up doing the Snowdonia way, which was supposed to be 120 miles over 8 days through Snowdonia National Park. I listened to music on the first day, and then it just randomly just kind of went, and I just didn't listen to any music for the rest of the time. It was just so enjoyable to just be. You actually finish your day and you think, I can't actually remember what I was thinking about. Your mind is just completely clear, which is phenomenal. I think it's just, it's really unique.
Yep, absolutely. And from your circle of friends, not one of them stood up and said, "Hey, Peach, that sounds like a good idea. You mind if I go with you?"
No, no. One of my mates came with me on a longer one. I hadn't seen him in quite a while, and he was just like, "What are you up to?" And it was really good weather. We had like 25, 26 degrees Celsius. Obviously, it was a nice summer's day. And I said, I'm going up to the Peak District, and I'm going to do like a 20-mile hike. And he was like, awesome. Can I come with you? And I was like, you sure? He's like, yeah. I said, have you got, like, I've got trainers, I've got gear, I'll be cool. I said, well, yeah, let's do it. And I think at mile 13, he did really start flagging, and he managed it, and he's fit. He was really fit. He's an ex-professional football, so soccer player. And when we finished, he was absolutely done, like just completely shot. And then we had a 2.5 hour drive back after that. And the next morning, he was just like, he said, I don't know what it is, but I feel completely different. He said, he can't put my finger on it, but I just feel different. And even that whole next week, he was just like, I can't believe it. He said, I am literally completely, everything's changed for me. And it was just, and he's moved to the States. He's in New York now, but that was, and it is, and I think it just does it to you. And I think some people will I think it is like one of those things, you either love it or hate it. So it'll either change your life, or it will change your life to the point of saying, yeah, I ain't doing that ever again.
We've had quite a few folks on the pod talk about the restorative aspects to nature and interacting with nature. And in fact, Glenn Schweitzer, who's making a documentary about the AT, really the focus of his film is the healing power of nature and what kind of impact that has on people. So yeah, that sounds very familiar. So Peach, let's go back a little bit, because you said that you were going through a change in your life when you started becoming interested in this hiking and backpacking. You mind sharing what that change was, or is that too personal?
No, not at all. I think I'd split up with my girlfriend in June of that year, June 2019, and I'd just been, I don't know, I think everything in my life, I was an ex-professional golfer, so I'm not an academic by any stretch of the imagination. Kind of left school when I was 16, probably left school mentally when I was 14, because I was so interested in doing anything else but going to school. And then moved to Germany when I was 16. My dad's was a teaching professional, and that was kind of it. And I kind of moved to Germany, got into golf, and went through that whole cycle of getting into golf. And that was primarily probably more to be closer to my dad, because my parents had divorced, and it was kind of connecting with him, and I was quite showed promise, should I say, as you know, as a young teen starting golf. And then tried out at ASU, Arizona State University, tried to get into that team. I didn't get a scholarship, but got invited into redshirt for a year, and then I ended up coming back to Germany and actually turning professional when I was 19, and then played pretty much all over sort of the whole of Germany and sort of parts of Europe, and got invited to some really cool tournaments. And then I ended up smashing my knee playing football, so soccer, and tore both cruciate ligaments, tore lateral ligament off my bone, 4-hour operation, 3 pins in my knee, and that was it. So my kind of golf career ended, and I went into a little bit of a downward spiral kind of mentally for a little while, because it's like, well, what do? You've left your whole life dependent on doing something with golf, and then that kind of, when you're that age, I suppose, you're 21, and you kind of just you've everything that you're focusing on or wanting to achieve is kind of just boom, gone. And I didn't really fancy being a teaching professional. I wanted to play. It was all about playing for me. Mm-hmm. So I ended up moving to Spain, and then from that point, again, because I didn't have any kind of real sort of qualifications academically, it was kind of sales, I guess. So do something in sales. And then I was in sales, moved to Spain, got into real estate, started doing that, and that all kind of was starting. It was really hard over there, really difficult, and then got into that, and then it started to get better. We ended up buying an apartment, beautiful apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, south facing, and it just then 2008 crash happened, so everything went completely tits up then. And then I ended up moving back to the UK, stayed in real estate, and then kind of my whole focus after golf was all money driven. How can I make money, and how can I survive and work? And then it kind of took over me, much as the hiking has done, I suppose. And I think that's just my character or my nature to kind of go to an extreme point. So if I want to do something, it's I'd be a professional golfer. If I'm going to do something, I need to be. I always had that kind of, but I never knew it was kind of that lost. I had no focus after golf as to where I was going with things.
Well, that was a heck of a change. I mean, you're going from playing on St. Andrews with Rory McIlroy and Lee Westwood, and now it's all changed for you. So you kind of adrift for a little bit.
It is, and that's the dream of playing, those kind of things, doing those kind of things. I mean, albeit like at ASU, I was played with there was Paul Casey there, who's been a quality golfer. Tim Mickelson, Phil Mickelson's brother. They were all on that.
The lesser known Mickelson.
Tim
Mickelson.
Tim Mickelson, really interesting story actually. Just real quick on this.
Is he left-handed or right-handed?
This is it, yeah. Phil Mickelson is left-handed golf, right-handed.
Correct, and he goes by lefty. I'm wondering if his brother goes by righty.
Right, Tim Mickelson is actually left-handed and plays.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that is so they're both completely the opposite way around. But yeah, anyway, so it was that kind of thing, and I think my whole life was kind of these near misses of achievement of doing things. So golf was almost there, and through every fault of mine, I shouldn't have been playing football, soccer, but I did my knee. Then it's kind of, you start getting, everything starts turning around for you in Spain in real estate, and then all of a sudden 2008 crash, boom, everything's gone. Start again, lived in London and stayed at my sister's for a little while, and then I stayed at a friend's house and lived on his floor. I had a mattress in a one-bedroom apartment, stayed with him for 2 years, and then slowly started to build up again. But it was all money focused, all money driven, and it was never, even when I started to achieve certain goals or certain things that I wanted to achieve within that, it never really ended up feeling like I thought it would do. In terms of, right, if I can earn this amount of money per annum, then that will be that, and I can do this. And you start to try to get to that point, and it never really satisfied. It was never anything of substance, and at least anyway for me, it didn't really tick the box that I thought it would. And then it was kind of after I split up with my girlfriend, and it kind of just got to the point of, well, what am I doing? I really need to. I had no real depth. I was so lost. I think it was just complete lost in terms of, I don't know where I'm going. I'm trying everything, too many things, everything all over the place. And then I think just the hiking, and then I started getting into fitness more so. And it was a conscious decision come January of this year, to completely change what I'm doing and do something that's going to mean something to me, and go, right, sod it, just go do something that you want to do, and don't think about any financial gain from it. Just go and do what you want to do. And then I started looking into personal training. Thought that would be cool. I wrote down a whole list of things. I thought, what would I want to do if money was no object? What would I want to do? What would, you write loads of stuff down. And personal training, nutrition, and hiking were just the things that I thought that's it, and then that kind of took me off this whole journey now of kind of doing that. That was why I set up the Instagram account, was to make myself more accountable for it, to say that was the whole thing, no hike to through hike, and I'm going to document this for me, having never hiked, have never done anything, going through that journey.
So a couple of things to unpack right there. First of all, I want to point out make sure our listeners know that your Instagram handle is NoHike2ThruHike, with 2 being a number. So NoHike2ThruHike. So make sure you check out his Instagram account. It's fantastic. But also, it seems like this was almost a New Year's resolution, right? First of the year comes and you're looking to make a change, and you come upon hiking, and that first week in January, if I've got my timeline right, you're making reservations for the JMT.
Yeah.
So it's like from 0 to 100 miles an hour. That's what's happening here.
Yeah, exactly. Nuts. I know. Completely loopy. But but I think that's what life is really, isn't it? It's all about just feeling. It's the closest feeling to really feeling alive, I guess. That makes you feel that adrenaline, and I'm not an adrenaline junkie by any stretch. I ain't jumping out of no planes. I'm not doing a bungee jump. I'm not that kind of guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, feet on the floor, all good. But it just got the belly, you know, the sort of the butterflies going, and that adrenaline, that excitement of something to look forward to, and to experience something, and to see things that a very small percentage of the world get to see. Really, when you, on the grand scheme of things, when you look at how many people are out there, to how many actually people are going to see things like you would do on the John Muir Trail or other trails, to be fair now. Obviously I was completely focused on the John Muir Trail, but after having done what I've done now, even, and that's not a lot, but it's still, I think I've done just 480 miles this year. I think you just see things that this not a lot of people get to see, and I think that's just incredible.
Right. And I like the fact that you created this Instagram account with that particular Instagram handle, you know, NoHike2ThruHike, as a means of putting pressure on yourself. You know, you're publishing out into the world now. You're putting out into the universe that you're going to do this. And once you speak it, you know, thinking is all well and good, but until you speak it out loud, until you put it out into the universe, there's really not a lot of impetus to get it done. So once you publish it, once you publish your desire to do something, that kind of puts added pressure on you to make sure that you follow through on that and get it done. So that's a great strategy, and we've heard that from others on the pod as well.
100%. And that was my first post, was the email that I got from the Yosemite National, like the John Muir Trail confirmation. That was my first post, and then it just went from there. So that was, but I think it's good. I think it's good to be, you can always hide behind things. You know what I mean? If you think, okay, I'm going to do that. And I think, again, if you don't have a big enough reason why you're doing it, and that why is really personal. So when it is blowing a gale, when it is really stormy weather, and you don't feel like doing a 3.5 mile drive to actually get somewhere worth hiking on a Saturday. I mean, I'd never done that. You know, to think, right, on my Saturday, I'm working during the week, get up 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, do a 3.5, 4 hour drive to where I need to go to then hike 5-6 hours, to then drive the same day 4 hours back, and then, you know, feel like you're dying on the Sunday because your legs are just like in bits. Because especially for me, I'd never done anything, so to do that was, and then it kind of, I think you need that underlying reason why you're actually doing this. Well, it can't be just a goal setting. The goal has to have a relevance to you, I think, to be able to, regardless of what happens, to make that you just keep going, I guess.
And we're going to go to a break here in just a minute, but before we do, I want to pose a question to Peach, and I'll ask the question, and he can answer it when we come back from the break. Here's the question, Peach, that people take up hobbies, and there's a variety of hobbies to choose from. Some people, you know, take up bird watching. Some people take up bowling. Some people, you know, going to write a book. But you chose multi-day backpacking, and so I want to ask how you came to that realization. How did you select multi-day backpacking and the JMT? How did you get there? And we're going to hear your answer when we come back from the break. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Right before the break, I posed a question to PJ, but before he answers that question, I want to go back a little bit further in his history. We heard about his, I think, late adolescence up through adulthood and his story there. But I really want to talk about growing up. You know, how many people were in your family? I know that you came from a divorced family. Were there any kind of outdoor activities that kind of laid the foundation for this newfound obsession for you?
I guess, I mean, golf in itself is you're walking, you know, so I'm used to walking and carrying my you know, my clubs, my golf bag, and all of that kind of stuff. So I guess it might be, the attraction might have something to kind of have that feeling of maybe that connection with golf again somehow, to be walking with something on your back like I used to. So you feel that some sort of familiarity without me necessarily realizing it. From my parents, I like from my mum and my stepdad, my dad as well, really, so they love hiking, they love walking, they do quite they're getting on a little bit now, so the walks have kind of reduced in length, but they still smash out the mileage on a regular basis. And they've done some long walks, and they've gone all over the place. Whenever they went on holiday, they'd be hiking. And Colin, he loved it as well. And he's massively outdoorsy, and I guess that again is something that you kind of pick up on. But it's never been kind of a deep rooted thing. It was just that it just kind of. I don't know, it's just one of those things that just happen. I guess your stars align and you're drawn to certain things, and I think that's kind of without getting too funny on you, I guess, like the laws of attraction and things that you kind of, the most things that are most deep rooted and things that you're on the same sort of wavelength, if you will, you attract that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of, it led me into doing that and looking into fitness, looking into nutrition, and they're all kind of combined. Really, it definitely suits me as a person. And I was beaming, like I turned completely glowing after the first time I went hiking. I was just astounded that I kind of walked for 3.5 hours, and the first one that I did, and it was just like, wow, like that was really, I couldn't believe it. I didn't think about anything. It blew my mind, like how you can just walk, appreciate your surroundings, and be completely alone in your thoughts without being bored and just thinking, there's so many things that you kind of think, oh, hiking's boring, or, oh, why would you want to do it? But it's so not. It's a million miles away from anything like that. It's so polar opposite. It's exhilarating, it's exciting, it's fuel for the soul. There's a whole heap of things that you gain from that, from hiking, massively, for me at least, anyway.
Yeah, sometimes there are external forces that influence us. You'll read a book, you'll see a movie, you'll watch a documentary, and you'll say, oh, that looks like something I could get into. And other times it's just an internal voice that whispers to you and says, hey, what about this? And I've had guests on the pod that have come from both experiences, where they have seen something and gotten really wrapped up in it. And then other folks who were sitting in a cubicle in an advertising agency, working their way up the ladder, and a voice says to them, you should backpack. And their life changes in that instant. And so it's I'm always intrigued to hear what the backstory is on the inspiration and the motivation to get into this exercise of if you've heard the pod, as I know you have, the tagline is embrace the suck. I mean, you put in a lot of tough hours out there, tough days, but you are rewarded with moments of just spectacular beauty.
100%. And I think when I really, really think about it, I think it's the craving for, and I know this sounds bizarre, but complete freedom and control of your life. And during those moments of when you're actually out hiking, if you're like, you're a weekend warrior and you just get out a weekend and you've got no intention of doing something like on a multiple day or a through hike, I think you do have that sense of complete control over what you're doing, because it's just one step in front. You have a destination start point. You're constantly, and again, from a success point of view, you feel successful every single day when you've got from one point to the next. You've got up a mountainside, or you've done this elevation, you've gone up, however many feet it is, And it's that sense of achievement every single time. And you've got continuous goals, continuous obstacles that you need to overcome. And it's just, yeah, very fulfilling.
Yeah, life kind of simplifies out there on the trail. You have simple, achievable daily goals, and you spend all of your time and energy crossing those goals off. It is a very satisfying existence.
Completely agree.
Yeah. How does that compare to your work life? What is your career right now?
So I'm in sales. So it's been, yeah, to the most part, real estate led. So either selling or renting, letting houses, to being on the photography side of things. So I've run a few businesses that are related to, sort of doing real estate photography, and then doing like the blueprints, the floor plans and all of that kind of thing. And then going into the marketing side of things. And then now I'm currently selling a payments platform, which is specific to the lettings industry. So again, real estate, but it's like a banking platform. So it's software as a service. Probably the hardest job I've ever done in my life, if I'm honest with you, in terms of, it's a very expensive product. It's a phenomenal product, but it's a very expensive product in a very difficult market, especially right now.
So in your career, do you have simple, daily, achievable goals?
No, they're hard goals, not very simple and relentless. And that's the thing. That's again, it's kind of wanting to, that's where it becomes this kind of, it's so money focused. It's everything's about, how can you do this? Let's make more money. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what I want. Like, yes, everybody needs to make money. And of course, money alleviates a lot of stresses and problems. Like if you've got a problem, if you've got money, you can just write a check and that problem goes away. Like, ceilings, like the shower's leaking, do I have the money? Okay, I'll pay somebody to go and do that. The car's broken down, I'll just go pay somebody to do it. I've got, this problem, pay somebody. These are all things, but they're not fulfilling. I think modern society gives you that sense of that money, and they mistake money for happiness and being fulfilled, when it has absolutely nothing to do with it. It doesn't mean, but you're blinded by this thing that if I make this money, then I am now happy because I now have that. But you're not, and it's kind of shown that time and time again. You look at all the major actors, like your Heath Ledgers, what's the guy's name? Mork and Mindy. What's his name?
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, one of the funniest guys in the world, most successful actors. Has all the money in the world, has everything that you could possibly from an outsider looking in, and he ends up committing suicide. I mean, that, not to go into this right now, but it just highlights for me that what my focus has been on is it's never ending. It's a never ending. If you chase that, it's kind of like, it's all the wretch and no vomit. You're never going to get there.
That's an interesting way of putting it. All the wretch and no vomit.
Yeah, well, it is, isn't it? You're never going to get there. It's never going to happen for you. Because you're constantly going for something that's not going to. You always want more, because it's unfulfilling. That's why you want more. And with something like this, I think if you can find something that regardless of how small it is or insignificant it might be to other people, if you can find something and you can actually master that and you can be good at it, then that'll give you you'll be completely fulfilled by it. But if you're really, 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 really good at it, then there's certain things that you can then, you can teach people, you can talk about things about hiking, you can, do various different courses and lead people on hikes that maybe haven't hiked before, and give them the opportunity to experience the same thing. So I think for me, that's kind of I thought, I need to shift my focus, and that drives that. I've gone off a little bit on a tangent here, but that kind of, it means that much. It really does. And that's my why. And that's why I've decided this, because it completely took me away from everything that I believed to be so important. And when you hit that realization that it means nothing, realistically speaking, yes, we need everything in that sense, and it is a money-driven world, but it doesn't mean anything. And I think doing something like that I've never felt as fulfilled. There's certain things in your life that you want to kind of patch out, and that you need to kind of complete to have that completeness. But I'm in such a good place, and life is good regardless of where I'm at right now. You have your ups and downs and everything, but I do believe that that's a lot of that is through hiking.
Yeah, well said. All of that, well said. Now, for our aspiring hikers out there who may have just listened to their inner voice and on a lark tuned into the John freaking Muir podcast and are listening to this and thinking, can I do that? Can I really get off the couch and become a thru hiker? I want to talk about a few areas with you, PJ. Number one, did you do any kind of research into like adventure media? Did you read any books? Did you watch any documentaries, any YouTube videos to help yourself kind of get the required information, the base information that you felt that you needed about hiking, backpacking, gear, trails, that kind of stuff?
All the above, everything. Yeah, 100%.
Really? What did you find to be the most useful?
I think it was YouTube. I have to be honest. I found because it was, and not necessarily being. It was for me. I split everything into, first and foremost, it was that inspiration I needed, and then it was like, okay, well, I need to see people doing what I want to, what I have in my mind. What are they looking at, and what does that look like for them? And so it was more about watching. I mean, I'd spend hours. Not in necessarily in, well, yeah, again, in one sitting, really. But you'd be watching videos, like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, of guys doing the JMT and guys doing the PCT and the AT Continental Divide, and it just carried on. And the more you get into that, the more you find more stuff, and just constantly find, and then you start reading blogs, because then you get beyond a certain thing, and then it's like, okay, now I need to listen to, like, read blogs, maybe buy some books on certain things, and then on trails. So I got the John Muir Trail, that's this, and just maps, and then all of a sudden you have an obsession with maps, even though I had no idea how to read the bloody things. It was just still that, kind of thinking like, I need a compass. Don't know how to use a compass, but I need a compass. And you just start going off on tangents in little things, and your focus shifts onto then gear, and then you're looking at gear videos and then reviews, and I think then it just goes into a whirlwind of like just absorb.
Is it all just, is it too much to kind of pick through and remember a particular video or YouTube channel or blog that was really most helpful?
I forget the guy's last name now, and I'll probably do him a disservice if John, and it's an Italian name, Italian last name. That was the first JMT video that I saw.
Okay.
I think it's like Ambrosini or something like that. And he did it was a JMT that he did 2015, 16, I think it was, and it was northbound. And it just blew me away. I think I actually watched that probably about 4 times. So now, it's about an hour and 40 minutes. And that led me then to start looking at, okay, where's he going northbound, and start writing everything down. Like writing everything and then checking it out on a map, and then using that and then putting it on a spreadsheet. But okay, that looks cool. I need to do that. I want to see that. And then you kind of go into that, and that's how that all then starts. And then looking at all of your different, and this was before I'd even applied. Did you
enjoy the prep and the planning piece of it?
Loved it.
Because I think that is
that's the exciting bit.
That is a very exciting bit. I don't know if I'm not going to say it's just as exciting as being on the trail, but there is a lot of joy that comes to people who are planning for their through hikes and are mapping out where they're going to be, you know, what the mileage is going to be, what the campsites are going to be, how they're going to do the resupplies. That is just simple hiking glory in the prep, and just very, very rewarding all by itself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was up till silly o'clock, you know, you just constantly, it was just, and it's a beautiful thing because it really, when it grabs hold of you in that sense, then you should just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And just and embrace that whole, you know, this newfound, I guess, love for something and interest. And once you then combine that with then actually going out and hiking, and you then have your whole mindset shifts into, okay, what do I want to achieve? So what am I actually looking at? Okay, how are my shoes? What am I, like, I had trousers on, and I quickly realized, even in England, I didn't want to wear any trousers. Like, I wanted to wear shorts. It was just, even though it was like, one of my walks that I went on hikes, I went on it was blowing a gale. It's like I said, it was like, I think it was Storm Dennis. Storm Dennis. And I was walking, and they were all had, you know, the waterproofs on and looked like they were dressed for winter. And I rocked up in my shorts and just a raincoat. And this one woman looked at me and she said, "Is it summer where you've come from or what?" Like, it was just, but it was just the way and I can't walk now with trousers on. I just find it really bizarre. Like, as long as I'm warm, my hands are warm, my head's warm, body's warm, I much prefer having shorts and just feeling a bit more open to it. So,
yep. And I want to propose something to you in that no matter how many videos you watch, how many documentaries you watch or blogs that you read, you think you have an idea of what it's like, but you don't. You don't. I thought I had an idea of what it was going to be like when I was out on the trail, and it was totally different from, you know, the reality was totally different than what was in my mind. And I'm so glad that I've been able to do sections, you know, of the JMT more than once, because the first time you go through, I think you miss something just because you're so, you know, you're so enthralled about this being the first time, and being able to do it multiple times really, I think, deepens the experience. So, you know, I watched Mile and a Half. Have you seen that one?
no.
So it was a documentary on the JMT. They had a film crew that went through and hiked the JMT with all of their camera equipment. So they're carrying, I don't know, 70, 80 pounds worth of equipment.
Wow.
And it was really well done. It gave a really good look at what the JMT is like. And the title was pretty funny because it's the most commonly used answer for any question related to how much further or how much longer. The hiking questions out there. The response is always mile and a half. So I thought that was really clever. But even having watched that, didn't prepare me for what it was really like.
I bet.
So
I bet. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to definitely apply again. 100%.
Yeah. So Mile and a Half is good. Also, you can check out the John freaking Muir Pod YouTube channel. It's got some good videos on there. And we devoted, I think, 7 or 8 episodes to sections of the JMT. We talked about our experiences on the trail, starting point, ending point, campsites, elevation change, and just good, fun stories from the trail from the guys that I went with. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. No, yeah, definitely. I mean, they're just, and there's a good amount out there. I think it's just, you need to find the people that are doing it and connect with them. I think that's because there are lots of other ones out there where you just kind of get maybe 5-10 minutes in, you think, I'm not going to be watching this. Or, you know, it's good, but then I think it's just connecting with the people that are, you know, either their voice or the way that they're expressing, like however they're delivering whatever it is they're delivering. I think that's the thing, isn't it? To buy into that, and then yeah.
So you did your deep dive, you did your research into all kinds of blogs and videos and YouTube channels. Now let's talk about the gear that you got. And you mentioned in the first segment about these shoes that were not a good decision. Let's talk about what you put on your feet and why they were bad and what you got instead after that. And I also want to hear about the rest of your gear in terms of your pack, your tent, your sleep system. What did you get?
So there's a place called Mountain Warehouse, and it's kind of, I'm not going to say budget, but it's kind of it is a bit of a budget store, really. They've got some good stuff in there, don't get me wrong. They've got good base layer stuff in there that you could get quite cost effective and that are good. But I think, I can't remember even what the name of these things were, probably a no-name brand. And I'd seen kind of the trail runners that a lot of, people wear in the US. And again, I was mentally going to do the JMT. So I'm thinking, okay, what is everyone wearing over there? Because that's what I'm doing. So and then I definitely don't want these boots.
Before you get much further, do you guys have REI over in UK?
No, we don't.
Have you heard of REI?
I have heard of REI. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I have. Yeah.
REI is short for Recreational Equipment Inc., and it's
Yeah.
my favorite place to waste 2-3 hours in an afternoon. So
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, I am so familiar on the US kind of hiking stores, and I was gutted when I was searching for stuff. Why they don't have this stuff over here? Like, I can't even order it. It was annoying. It really, really, really was. So you kind of have to think a little bit and try to find an alternative to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Mountain Warehouse is not an REI. I can guarantee you that. It's not great. And that's no disrespect to them, by the way. I'm not trying to diss them in any way, because there are some good stuff in there. But anyway, these, I think they were like £30, so it can't have been like, what, $40, $50. And they look good. They're waterproof, not boots, kind of sort of like a trainer shoe type thing.
Okay. And
then I did the penny fan, which is like in Wales. That was my first real proper kind of hike, I guess. That was 13 miles, I think it was. First one that I did was about 13 miles. And these things are just horrible. Like the soles, I don't even know what went through my head when I even bought the things. I just looked at them with a hiking shoe, rather than just actually looking at it and testing the sole. But you could feel every little pebble, stone under your feet. They were waterproof, and then it was wet. So then foot got, water in there because it's all squelchy, and then the water's not going anywhere because it's all in your shoe. I'm constantly trying to empty. Anyway, nightmare. I just bought, and then cotton shirts, and I'm sweating, and then took off my top, and then all of a sudden I'm like freezing, so I have to put it back on again, and then I'm like shaking for like 20 minutes before my body heats up, and then I've got this cold, wet cotton t-shirt. So again, that kind of thought, okay, definitely don't be wearing cotton. Like, try and find like something like a sports top or like a bamboo. Looked into that and got all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so then it was the Ultra Olympics. I think they were the kind of the big thing for me, and that's what I ended up going with, and that's what I've had for the last 480 miles that I've done this year so far. So
say that again. What did you end up with?
Ultra Olympic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the ultras.
Yeah.
Got it.
It was the 4.0 that I went with. Obviously, they've got the 4.5s now. But yeah, the 4.0 ultras, and they were like, it was 0 drop. So it took me a little bit of a while to get used to that. My calves were like, what is going on? Like, they're really,
yes.
I really felt
the feeling. I've got some ultras. I had the same sensation at the beginning, but I love them. I love them now.
They're amazing.
Yeah, you have to, when you are doing your research and getting your trail shoes. If you're gonna do a trail shoe and not a boot, I prefer trail runners or trail shoes rather than a boot. You really need to like you said, you need to bend the sole and see how stiff it is, see how firm it is, because you don't want to be feeling every rock and pebble, like you said.
And that's the beauty. They've got the stone guard in there. They've got the whole. It's like, well, when you first get them. Now they are getting a little bit worn. Like, I definitely need a new pair, which I'm kind of looking forward to, to be honest with you. But like buying the gear as well. That's that's so exciting. Like, I can't wait. It's arriving. When's it arriving? And But yeah, it's like walking on a cloud, like with those stuff. Like it was the first time walking using those, and then they get wet. But then the merino wool socks with those, even if your feet are wet, you don't really feel your feet don't get cold.
Mhm.
You don't really feel anything. They kind of, the water just drains out of them because they've got all those little perforated bits on the side. So yeah, love the Ultras, massive fan.
All right. What did you end up with for a pack?
So I went with the Osprey Exos 58, which is, yeah, I think that's what, 2.5 pounds. Like that's just the natural like weight. It really is. I mean, it's light, it's framed. It's got a frame obviously on there. Again, looking at all of the other packs out there, you've got the Z packs and just different variations of those kind of those type of packs, but they're crazy money. For starting out, at least, I'm pretty sure, you know, that I'd probably, as things go on, but the Exos 58, and I love it. I thought it was a really, it's down there. I mean, it's just a great pack. I really, really like it. And
Our listeners can't see what just happened, but I just want to relay to them. PJ looked down and off to the side in a very lovingly fashion at his pack on the ground.
Yeah, it's just down there.
Yeah, Osprey is a very popular brand, and they do a great job with packs. I know my buddy Chopper has an Osprey and just swears by it. I'm probably dating myself right now, but I found a great deal on a Granite Gear Crown 260, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's lightweight, less of a frame than the Osprey, and I wish it had some little packs on the belt loop. It doesn't have it there. So if I want to get anything, I either have to wear a fanny pack to have easy access to it, or I've got to take my pack off and dig through stuff. But it's a very lightweight pack and has done great for me.
Same here. Like I've had to wear one of those because they don't, on the Osprey ones, they don't have the little pouches on them. Not on this one, at least. They might have done on previous models. I'm not sure. But they don't have it. But it's just easy to grab into the water. The way that the pockets are kind of cut in there, and yeah, it's a great pack. Rides really well.
Nice. How about a tent? Do you do tent, tarp, or do you do cowboy camping?
No, it's a freestanding cowboy camp. No, it's a freestanding. It's the Big Agnes, the Fly Creek UV. I think it's the high volume HV UL2. So it's a 2-man, but I mean, you've got to be really good, either just good friends, close,
really close friends. Yeah,
real close to one of these. I mean, it's a small 2-man tent, but it's perfect and it's super light. And again, probably weighs about the same as my pack.
Yeah, Big Agnes is another solid choice, another good brand.
Yeah, and again, that was all more so American sort of like things that you kind of look at, or US kind of ways of looking at like things that you know guys use for hiking, and it was amazing that I could actually dismantle the tent from the inside, either put it up or take it down when it was raining. So not have to kind of completely get out. Like I could unclip the inside, make sure that the inside was all wrapped up and dry, you know, before I then took out the outer layer of it. And the frame of it is just literally just all like just opens up and just super easy to use. So that was, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I've gone to recently? I just got it. I haven't actually taken it out and used it yet because I've gotten it just since my last trip, and that is Outdoor Research Helium Bivy.
Okay.
Are you familiar with bivvies?
I am, yeah.
It's like a cocoon, basically. Yeah. So I've got that, and I've got a great sleeping pad and a quilt, trying to maintain that lightness and avoid carrying any extra weight. So you probably get a little claustrophobic in there, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you've got to, I think if you're in hiking for a while, I think then you might start experimenting with different types of tarps or a bivvy or different sorts of things. But for me at the moment, I think the Big Agnes is it's good enough, you know.
How about your sleep system?
I've gone. So that was something that I could not struggled with, but I guess the sleeping pad was my main sort of not concern, but it was definitely something that I kind of looked at, and I forget the name of the thing now, but it was the Thermarest. I didn't buy this one, but is it the Neo Air Thermarest? It's like a yellow one. Looked really good. Everybody raved about it.
Is it the foam pad?
Not the
Or
foam
is
pad.
it
It's
blow up?
blow up.
Okay.
I forget what. Anyway, but I looked at it and I came across that at the one of the stores I went, and it sounded like a crisp packet when you lied on it.
Oh yes.
And I thought, do you know what? I thought, I don't care how people are raving about this pad right now, because it's super small, super light, and everyone's saying, yeah, the R rating in terms of, like, I can't remember what it was now, 4.2 or something stupid like that, and now 4.5. But they were like, yeah, the R is super warm, but it sounds like a packet of crisps. Just so that is gonna do my nut. Like, I'm gonna go crazy listening to that at night.
Yeah,
And then
I have to tell you, I have to jump in here because one of the guys that we did our original JMT hike with, he had one of those. I don't know if it was the exact brand, but he had a sleeping pad that made all kinds of noise anytime he moved in his
yeah,
tent. It got so bad that we get to a campsite and I would wait to see where he set up his tent, and I would go to the opposite end of the campsite because there's no way I was going to listen to another night of him tossing and turning. It was brutal.
yeah, the nightmare. Like, and everybody's raving about it. And I thought, you deaf? Like, why do you not? And nobody mentions the noise about this thing. They're like, it's super light, super compact, super comfy. I'd never travel without it. And then I'm thinking, you failed to mention that this thing has got, you need like earplugs to lie on this thing, because I don't know how you're
Yeah.
doing it. So anyway, I went for the answer your question, Sea to Summit Etherlight XT. It's insulated one. I actually went for the women's large. It was, I mean, I'm what, 5'9", so it's kind of, I didn't need a huge pad.
Mm-hmm.
And also the women's large was wider than the men's regular, and I thought I needed a bit more. I preferred a bit more sort of space to put my arms down.
What do you think that? What do you think that the manufacturer is saying about the difference between men and women there? I'm not
I have no
sure.
idea. Like, yeah, but it was just, but it really, like, it worked a treat, you know.
Yeah, nice.
I really like it, and I thought I'll give it a go. I could always send it back if it doesn't kind of work. But it was, yeah, it was absolutely spot on. And then I went for the Sea to Summit again, quilt. So again, I didn't want a sleeping bag. Not necessarily weight. I think weight is obviously a thing that you become more and more conscious of as you're putting your stuff together. And once you start doing more and more hikes, you start realizing, I don't really want to be carrying as much as that. If I can cut weight, I'll cut weight. I mean, I'm not to the extreme of cutting little ties off my bag to make it that tiny little 1 ounce lighter than it possibly. You know, I'm not that crazy.
You're not drilling holes through your toothbrush.
No, I did cut the edge off though. Yeah, stupid little things. But I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I've seen people do that, drilling holes into it just to glide. I mean, great. But that's the beauty of hiking, I guess, as well. You can do those kind of things. But that was the Sea to Summit Ember EB2 quilt, and I think it's a 30 Fahrenheit. Is that about right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the one I went for, and that was perfect for me. Just didn't want to feel all cocooned. I like to have a little bit of flexibility.
Totally agree.
And it's bizarre, like, and again, I've done the research on it, and the actual insulation part of where you're lying on a sleeping bag is completely gone once you lie on it, because the insulation properties are gone, because you're actually you're flat. So as long as you've got a sleeping pad and something on top of you, and now it's warm, really warm. Yeah, it was really good.
Yep.
And then it's the Trekology. I've got it actually here. Trekology. My sister got me that. pillow. So again, I had the Sea to Summit Aerolite one, which I took, and then my sister got me the Trekology one, and I thought I have to take that because I've got to let her know how it was, kind of thing. And then first night I slept on it, and then I never even tried out the Sea to Summit one. I found it that good and that comfy, and it was quite a big pillow as well, a
Yeah,
bit bigger than the Sea to Summit.
I've got the Trekology pillow too. It's awesome.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I've got the Sea to Summit Aeros pillow. Never used it once, and the Trekology, I was just like, yeah, this is perfect, really comfy.
We're going to go to another break here in just a second, but before we do, I want to see if I can pin PJ down on his can't live without item from his kit. Any of the items that you've currently mentioned, you previously mentioned, or something that you haven't mentioned, what do you have to take with you when you go out?
On a day hike, or are you talking like a multi-day?
Multi-day.
That's a really difficult question, you know. If multiple things, really. There's quite a few must-haves for me. I really got attached to my trekking poles, which I never thought I would.
Yeah, that is a common feeling where, newbie hikers, novice hikers will say, why I don't need poles. I'm gonna look funny. I'm afraid I'm gonna look funny if I've got poles. People are gonna look at me and say, why does that guy have poles? And those are so great to have in terms when you're going uphill and downhill.
Massively.
They are a huge difference.
I think that using both for going up and down, but then, and this happened just because I fell over. I can't remember what day it was now, but I think it was day 2. I fell over. I was walking down. It was quite steep. I'd taken a bit of a wrong route, fell over, and tried to obviously stop myself falling, and bent the bottom half of the trekking pole, and tried to like bang it straight again. And anyway, point being is the one of them didn't actually. I managed to straighten it out, but I couldn't get it back in. So I couldn't actually put that into my packs to when I wanted, if I didn't want to have one at all. So I ended up just having one of them put into my pack on the side here, and I ended up just using one. And then that was all I ended up doing. So it was only really when I really needed to go up steep or down steep that I would actually apply both. But as a rule, I just then had one, but that was through just default because of the way that I couldn't put it back in. So I ended up using one and loved it.
PJ, if I had been with you on that trip, I would have given you the trail name of Tripod.
Tripod. Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, so that was. I mean, trekking poles, platypus, the gravity. That was absolutely. I don't think that's what I'm saying. There's so many little things like battery pack. Lifesaver, like 7 days worth of battery charge on there, especially the way that I was kind of doing things. I mean, the Trekology pillow, you're getting little things like that you kind of think about. But the platypus, 4 liters every single day on an evening, bosh, get your 4 liters. You got enough for your dinner, for your food. You got water in the next morning. You got 2 liters for the evening, 2 liters for the next day. I had a little Sawyer as well, just in case I needed to, like, emergency kind of thing. But the platypus was that gravity system. Absolutely.
Yeah, the gravity filter is so much better than having to, do a squeeze bag or any kind of filter that requires some kind of pump. I mean, just letting gravity do the work is awesome.
Yeah, I think that is definitely surprisingly one of my most favorite items. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. And favorite food on the trail? What's your favorite dinner on the trail?
I had we've got this thing over here. It's called Summit to Eat, and again, that's like dehydrated foods. And there was, I think it was the potato and beef stew. was phenomenal. That was lovely, absolutely. And I took some Parmesan and I took a bit of biltong, like beef jerky, put a bit of that in there. I mean, I have some luxury. I'm way too much food, by the way. Like, I could have eaten for weeks and weeks the amount of stuff that I took. Way too heavy. I had like 5 kilos worth of food, and it was just crazy amounts of all sorts, like peanut butter sachets, olive oil sachets, and all sorts of just little bit. Yeah, I went kind of probably a bit too. But you never know. It's your first time doing it, so you want to. I thought I'd rather be oversupplied, rather than doing it my first time and then thinking, oh, I wish I had that. I'd rather be like, oh, next time that ain't coming with me. That was far too much.
Right. That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah.
I have kind of varied my eating system, so that I take maybe half of the dehydrated meals, and then I'll take half of my meals will be like ramen and tuna packets. Do you know what ramen is?
I do.
Top ramen?
And tuna packets that don't have them over here. Spam.
Oh.
Spam, tuna packets, all the things that I'm thinking, right, again, everything that I kind of resupply points and things that I was thinking of buying or having sent to for the JMT did not exist and do not exist over here. You cannot buy tuna in a packet unless you want to buy cat food. And then there's this, which I'm not going to do. And then spam, you can't. It's all in tins. I'm not going to carry a tin around. Like, yeah, it really annoying.
Trying to supply yourself in England is like being required to hike with only one trekking pole. You're at a real disadvantage.
Yeah, exactly. So there was, and it was a bit too late. By the time I'd cottoned on to the fact that you couldn't actually buy those things over here, there was somewhere I thought, okay, I could get hold of them, but then it would like take potentially 2 weeks for them to arrive. And at that point I was already going, doing my actual, the one that I ended up doing, the Snowdonia way. But yeah, I learned loads of little things. I mean, I took the the Summit to Eat dehydrated foods, and then I put all that into a Ziploc bag, and then I ended up making that thing to put them in, so I could keep it, pour it in the Ziploc, so it just kind of
describe that to our listeners who can't see what you're holding up there.
So this is it's a windshield sun visor, that kind of material that I've kind of used like duct tape and kind of put it into it's like a little wallet, and then you just fill up your Ziploc bag with just hot water, which I have the jet boil, filled that up with hot water, sealed that off, and then just put it in here and sealed it off and just chucked it by the side and actually ate it out of here. With the Ziploc bag in, and it reduces the weight of the actual bags, and that is crazy. I didn't even think, but it was like literally, I can't remember how many 100 grams, but it was a significant difference to actually having the what the food comes in. I know you've got got Mountain, what's it called now? The food that you get over in the States, Mountain.
There's several different brands, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But the packs the aluminium packs, they're really heavy. They are quite heavy. So when you actually decant those and put those into a little Ziploc bag, you're saving quite a lot of weight. But then it's like, okay, well, how do you actually keep that hot when you're doing it and hold it as well whilst you're eating it without burning your hand? So I looked online. I kind of made one of those little.
So it's your cooking container, right?
Yeah.
You let it. You put the hot water in there, and you let it soak. Very good. Very ingenious.
8 minutes, and just let it, and it keeps it nice and hot, and it makes it a lot easier to eat it out of. And so yeah, loads of little things. I put a load of duct tape around my trekking poles at the top, just in case I needed that. So I've got that run, taking a big roll of it.
All the tricks. Look at you. Very good. Yeah. Very good. All right. Hey, let's cut to a quick break. I know that it is like 3:36 in the morning where you are right now. Are you okay for another maybe 20, 30 minutes?
I'm good. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's all good.
All right. You got your coffee? You're doing all right?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Okay, we've taken a break. We've gone through all your prep, most of your prep, I should say, because I want to go back to the spreadsheet that you put together. I know you
Right.
said you had you had it planned out for southbound or for northbound, depending on which permit you got. So I want you to pick one of those directions, northbound or southbound, and just take us through, how many days did you allot for the trip? What was your kind of planned on mileage per day? And let's go through some of your campsites. I want to hear where you were thinking about camping.
So, I mean, I originally started. I went northbound because that was kind of the first video that I'd seen, was northbound, and because it was the first one I'd ever seen, I didn't realize that there was a set sort of. It was only later by doing research that I found out that, that it was the Yosemite Valley. That is kind of where you kind of started and then went down south. That's the original route, but the first one was starting at Horseshoe Meadow.
Okay.
And then going from there, that was the trailhead. And then Cottonwood Creek, Rock Creek, Timberlane Lake. So they're the first sort of three days.
Mm-hmm. What's the mileage?
30.
What was the approximate mileage in between those
So,
campsites?
13 miles, then it was 9 miles. Day 4 was the Summit Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was, Cottonwood Creek, 10,200 feet. Rock Creek, 9,700 feet. Timberlane Lake was 11,080 feet. Obviously then 14,505 was Whitney. Bighorn Plateau, Vidette Meadow. So that's the Bighorn Plateau. That was 21 miles.
Yeah.
And then 14 miles.
I shouldn't say if. When you do the JMT, you have to camp at Bighorn Plateau. That's somewhere that I wanted to hit on both trips, and for one reason or another, we didn't make that destination. We hiked through it the next day, but it seems like an epic place to hike to camp. So
it looks amazing. I think that they were the kind of definitely the points that I looked at. I thought, wow, that's got to be a point. And to get there from Whitney was obviously, that's 21 miles.
mm-hmm.
Vidette Meadow, then resupply at Onion Valley. So you have to kind of then walk. I think that was quite a big detour for that to get off there to, I think it was about a 4 mile kind of detour to go down resupply. And they have the,
you got to go up over
the boxes, I think.
Yeah, you go up over Kearsarge and down into Onion Valley, pick up your resupply, and then head back. Yeah.
Head back. Heart Lake, 13 miles. Dollar Lake.
Hey, Peach, I'm gonna commit to you right now. I'll be your trail angel when you do your JMT hike.
Really?
I'm only a few hours away from Onion Valley. I'll drive up and I'll hike in your resupply. So
you're a legend.
I'll save you the miles.
What a legend. I'll hold you to that.
You better. Give me a reason to get out. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Dollar Lake, then that was 12 miles. Upper Basin, 18 miles. Grouse Meadow, 16 miles. Evolution Lake.
Yes. Yep.
16 miles. Resupply MTR. Had to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Hot Springs.
So how many days is that? How many days is that so far? You've gone from
10,
you say
10 days.
10 days. So you're about the halfway point at MTR.
Yes, halfway point MTR.
Yeah.
Muir Trail Ranch. Again, so 16 miles. Marie Lake. That was 8 miles. So a bit of a shorter day. Excuse me. Pocket Meadow. 16 miles. Ivor Bell Hot Springs. 16 miles, and again, obviously descending now, so everything is going from, everything from Whitney going on that point is starting to.
Yeah, you would think it's descending. but
This is,
there's
you
still
don't feel
there's
it. I bet well, in elevation in terms of where you're at, but obviously not in terms of the actual general hike day-to-day
that's
elevation
right.
gaps
There's
and
still
stuff.
daily up and down. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure. Um, and then where are we? Yeah, resupply. Then again, Reds Meadow. And then 14 miles Garnet Lake, 15 miles Lyle Canyon, 15 miles Cathedral Lakes, 13 miles Half Dome. I actually got a Half Dome permit as well. Gutted, man.
Oh man, you hit the lottery twice and you couldn't collect your winnings.
Exactly. I know.
Oh,
Golden ticket. And then little Yosemite Valley, Yosemite Valley, and that's the final one. And that whole thing. That was 20 days, and that came in at 273 miles over that period. And I thought the days were. I thought they were. Yeah, I mean, there was some longer days, some shorter days, and some you never know how you. I mean, I can only imagine now, but I think the first, even when I did my version of my own personal first sort of through hike, it was day 3 where all of a sudden all the burning in my legs stopped and I just felt crazy strong. I've never ever in my life felt like that. I was just marching, and it was just, I was going uphill, downhill, through all sorts of terrain. Didn't feel a thing, like in the legs. The feet are getting sore. You start feeling certain things that you think, well, actually, that's. You feel a little, your hips are a little sore. Tell you one thing that I never thought I would ever experience, or even conceived to be a problem, was my shoulders from the pack weight. From here, right in, just it was absolutely, your traps were just in bits. Like the next morning, I was just like, oh, like it's just super sore. And I had like Tiger Balm, and I'm rubbing that in. I'm having ibuprofen, and I mean, I definitely needed more ibuprofen. that was. But yeah, so that was pretty much that. And then
now
in
Peach on your shoulder straps that come over the front of your shoulder here, you've got a couple of straps up high that are attached to the main straps. They're kind of laying on top. You can pull those to adjust. You want the pack as tight to your back as possible, so you can adjust that here. And then also down by your hips, there's a couple of other straps that you can pull up that also make that adjustment. It pulls the pack so it's tight against your back. If the pack is hanging off your back, that's going to be a problem in the long term.
It took me, it was on the 3rd day. So of not only getting my legs, if you will, but also understanding how this pack works.
Right.
And how to pack it. Because I hadn't packed it. I hadn't, when you're repacking, it's like where you're distributing the weight and putting your food. So try and put the food more in the center rather than having it at the bottom or at the top. So it's kind of, you're all over the shop. So that was kind of, and then that kind of, that disappeared, and that became, once you get used to understanding little parts of the thing, oh, that feels like amazing. It was just like, whoa, it's completely different. So that was, that was my route for that one.
Yeah, I like how, and we don't have to go through both routes, but I like how you had not only the mileage, but you had the altitude. All that's very important in planning out, because you kind of want to set yourself up at those campsites so that you are going to make your ascents early in the morning and you're not climbing late in the day. So there's a lot to kind of include in your planning.
Sure, like river crossings as well. Like, because it was late June, I thought, okay, if there is snow up there, then if it's a snow season or whatever, then the lakes are going to become more rapid, if you will, like later in the day as the sun. So if I did have any of those, to try to plan that, so if I was going to do any river crossings, that it would be early as opposed to later in the day. And I made a whole, I went nuts on spreadsheets, and like all
That's
the
great.
different things, equipment that I needed, and
Yeah.
uh, mile markers, elevation gains, time estimates, gradients. I put even put in the gradients on one of these spreadsheets.
Wow.
That was when I got a little bit. New Army Pass as well. I definitely wanted to do all that kind of stuff, and so I put all the pass. I think there was 13. Yeah, Pinchot Pass.
You can definitely go down the rabbit hole in planning for these trips. Yeah,
And then you
and
don't.
again, that's part of the fun. That's part of the excitement, part of the journey. So I know you haven't done the trail, but I want to do a top 5 list with you on your top 5 most anticipated points on the John Muir Trail from all of your research leading up to this. What were you looking forward to the most? You could
Definitely
pin it
Half
down
Dome.
to 5.
I think Half Dome was definitely on the list because that was day day one. I guess you kind of I forget there's a certain place where you have to camp on the first night. So from Little Yosemite, I think you had it was like 8 miles.
Yeah.
And you have to stop there overnight.
Backpackers camp. Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And then to go off and do like Half Dome. So Half Dome was definitely one. MTR was definitely a place where I just thought, you've got to do that. And I think they have the hot springs there just over.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. There was another. What's the other place called now? I think you can. It's a toss. You can either MTR or the
VVR.
BVR. Yeah. So I didn't quite, but I think MTR was the one that I decided that was definitely the one of the ones I wanted to. I've made some notes here. 1 second. It's been a while since I've kind of.
Now, some of our JMT listeners out there might say, "Hey, Pete, you shouldn't make the resorts the days where you're going to take a break from the trail. That shouldn't be the highlights of the trail. What are your highlights from the trail?"
Yeah, I think is it Thousand Island Lake?
Yep.
Really was looking forward to that.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah, I mean Bighorn Plateau again was one. The New Army Pass, I definitely wanted to have done that, but again, that was kind of more the northbound. I don't know if it was a northbound route because it does take you off slightly different. I think it's even. Is it off the JMT or is it on the JMT?
It's off the JMT.
It is off the JMT, isn't it? Yeah. So that was more of a northbound thing, but I'd really kind of fancied that.
Yeah, you're really going to enjoy Evolution Lake, Evolution Valley.
Evolution Lake, yeah, and all those.
Those are nice. And then up by Muir Pass, you have the Muir Hut, but you also have just below that you have Wanda Lake, which I thought was a very beautiful location.
Yeah. I think then what else did I have on here? Evolution Lake. Yeah, Marie Lake, and just I think it was more the lakes. I think I wanted to be like camping around those kind of, not necessarily for fishing, but just because I think of to camp and have that and wake up and be, obviously you've got like the mosquitoes and midges and all those kind of things that you need to be a bit wary of, but I'd got over that point. I thought it'll be fine, but I definitely wanted to camp near those kind of like lakes. I think lakes was a big theme from what I can remember in terms of the planning side of it. It was like that's the view I want when I arrive at camp. I want to have that. You've got a bit of a clearing point, by any kind of lake where you can kind of set up your camp, make it a bit easier to do that, and just the views, waking up in the morning and seeing that.
There's something about high alpine lakes they're just gorgeous. And I think also they're burned into my memory because it seems to me that the most beautiful places in my mind came after the most difficult struggles. So, going up the Golden Staircase, if you're going southbound, going up the Golden Staircase and being able to then camp at Palisade Lakes. I mean, that was just incredible. Not because they were more beautiful than any of the other lakes, but because they came after the Golden Staircase. So I think you put in the miles, you put in the effort, and
Was it
just to see
Devil's
the
Post Pile? Devil's Post Pile, is that one?
yeah, Devil's Post Pile. That's right outside of Red's Meadow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just little things like that that you just want to. I think. I mean, I've written so many different things down. I think that was the not necessarily. It was good to have those points of to say I want to do that and I want to reach that. But I kind of, with the hike that I ended up doing as a replacement for that, I kind of realized that it's a bit different over here in the UK because it's technically in certain areas illegal to wild camp. So I was kind of bound by where I started and where I finished my day. And I know that people wild camp, and you see it all the time, especially on YouTube with people saying, "Oh, I've just done wild camping here." It was my first time out, so for me, again, it's kind of that. If I'm going to do it the first time, first I have never camped before. You know, I've never done never backpacked or done a through hike, and I had never camped before. So if I'm going to do that, I want to do that at a campsite. So that was, but I found that very restricting, and it made it then, for me at least, a little bit more then uncomfortable, because it was like when you got really tired, rather than just thinking, do you know what, I found a spot here, it's phenomenal, it's beautiful, I'm just going to set up camp here. I could not do that on this, or I probably could have done, but I chose then not to do that because I was just fearful of getting a flashlight by a farmer, a local farmer or something, like at 11 o'clock going, you need to get off my land, and me having to then pack up, which actually happened on one of the nights that I was camping. I actually camped on a campsite, but that was for a different reason. So yeah, I found it quite restricting. It's good to have checkpoints, or where, oh, okay, that's day one, or that's where I want to get to. But by doing that, you're forcing yourself to go beyond a certain point. I remember hitting, I think it was day 2 or 3, can't remember now, and it was 6:30 in the evening. I still had 5 miles to go. Not 5 miles. It was 5 hours. I ended up getting into camp at 11:45 in the evening.
Wow.
At night, and setting up camp pitch black. And I was in bits, and that was a 19.5 mile day. And I got lost, and I'd had all sorts of problems during the day. And that was, so I think as much as it's great to have points of saying, this is what I want to hit for that particular day in terms of mileage, having the flexibility like you do in America, or I suppose in Scotland as well, you can wild camp, which is something I want to do as well. But just being able to say, do you know what, I've had it for today, I've had enough. I'm just going to find a great spot, I'm going to set up camp, and I'm going to go here and maybe pick up some more miles on the next day where I've decided to do a short day. You have more flexibility, and I think that is definitely something that I would change about my next hike.
And that particular hike you were just discussing, was that your hike to Snowdonia Way?
Yeah, the Snowdonia Way. So that was the one that I ended up deciding on doing. It was a toss-up between the West Highland Way in Scotland or the Snowdonia Way, and I just picked the Snowdonia Way. It was a route that has been created. It's a relatively new route that was set up in 2017 by a mountaineer called Alex Kendall, and he'd written a book on that particular route. And there's 2 different routes. There's the mountain route, and then there's the kind of the valley route, if you will, an easier kind of route. And I obviously went for the mountain route to try to have some form of replicate what I was wanting to do in terms of, just endurance and the elevation, sort of going up and down and doing all of that. But it's not waymarked. I mean, a lot of it is there's no trail, very little trail. And in the 6 days, I saw 4 people on the actual one I was actually walking. I mean, I met people on, Snowdon Mountain is like the highest mountain in Wales. Kader Idris again, all of the sort of tourist spots, you come across quite a lot of people. But as a rule, I saw 4 people in 6 days over that entire period. It was just on your own. And I spoke to a few people, and I told them where I'd gone, and they were like, "Crikey, you know, the farmers don't even go up there." You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing up there? So it's it's a really new route. It's not waymarked. So my navigation came massively into play, which was a little bit sketchy at best. So yeah, but that was.
You had to use your newfound compass skills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, well, it was all GPS and kind of looking at it from that point, and OS maps and using those kind of devices, really.
So did I hear you correctly in that the Snowdonia Way is about 120 miles?
It is. So yeah, it's from.
And you did it in 6 days?
I did. I fell short because on day 6 I got in a spot of bother. I was supposed to be meeting my parents. They were coming down, and my stepdad was going to do day 7 with me, which was, I think it was 10 miles for day 7. And then I had 18 miles left on the last day. And I started on day 6, and the campsite that I was at, one of the guys at the camp, who was kind of running the place and whatever, amazing campsite, by the way. I mean, we had hot, like, fresh pizza they were cooking there, and beer on the tap. It was phenomenal. I was just like, I ate 2 pizzas.
Peach, that's not camping, that's glamping right there.
Yeah, it was. It really, 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 really was. I mean, I landed on my feet, but I wasn't complaining. I really, 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 really wasn't complaining. But he said, "What are you doing?" So I told him about the Snowdonia Way, and he said, a couple of weeks ago, there were 2 guys who tried that route, and they stopped. They ended it here. They didn't go on. They couldn't go on beyond that point. And I thought, and that was again another trigger in my mind to kind of say, right, well, I'm not stopping here. And then I woke up in the morning and sort of tended to my blistered feet. And in doing that, then all of a sudden, like, the thunder started cracking, and then it started to rain, and I was like, oh, I don't know. And I thought, I've got to go. And it just got really bad. And then I don't know what I was thinking. And I think this is where you kind of make choices. And there was one real bad choice, and there was this kind of fence lining, and it kind of met into this like mountainside or crag. And it just looked really daunting. And for some reason in my head, and the cloud had come in, and it started to get really heavy cloud. So it was clear. And then within literally 30 seconds or 60 seconds, poof, white out. Just couldn't see a thing. Just could all see it come towards me. And I was just like, okay, I'm not going up there. I thought, if I do have to, it looked like I had to do it, but I thought, I'm not doing that today. And for some stupid reason, I climbed over the fence right and went round, and then I couldn't get back on top, because then the cloud got really thick, so I couldn't see where I was going, and then it was too steep to get back on side. And again, I didn't think, why don't you just retrace your steps and go back? And there was this 2 big lakes at the bottom, and I thought, I need to get out of here. So I took a right down towards the lake, and there was this forest, and I could see on the map that there was a track that led through the forest. But when I got down there, it wasn't an actual forest. It was a logging forest, which was so dense. So the trees were all like so close to each other, and it was like Satan. I just grabbed hold. I couldn't get out of there. It was all over me, and I'm getting smacked in the face by branches. So I quickly made an exit out of this little forest, and then headed back down to this stream. And then I hit like just this swamp, and twice I fell up to my waist in swamp. The first time I kind of got out fairly easy, and the second time it was really thick. And then I lost one of my ouches come off, So I'm like flapping around, trying to get my shoe back on, the weight of my pack. And I thought, I need to ditch my pack. But I thought, if I ditch that, that's gone. And I don't know where I am at this point. I need to get out of here. And it took me 45 minutes to pull myself out of this swamp. And you're on your own. You're in the middle of nowhere. It's nasty weather. And I was just, it started to really, when you panic, and there was moments in my mind where I was thinking, this is it. I'm not getting out of here. This is, and I'm being really serious. I really thought, this is not good. I'm done. How am I going to get? So I'm trying to pull myself out using my trekking pole to try to manage to get my way through. Energy. I knew that I had the energy and the sort of the endurance to be able to continue on to do the amount of walking that I needed to do to finish the last 2 days. But I just mentally went and thought, I've had enough. Like, I want to go home. I'm done. And obviously I had the luxury of knowing that my parents had come to meet me at where I was supposed to be ending that day, because they were going to be, my stepdad was going to be walking with me for the 10 mile the next day. And then they were going to drive on to Conway, and we were then going to meet up there. And then we were going to go off and have like a few days in an Airbnb and just chill out and relax. And I think knowing that I knew that they were there and the problems that I'd had that particular day, in my mind, I was like, I'm done. Like, I just want to, and I think having the luxury of knowing that they were there, and it was only later that I managed to get signal on my phone to call them to say, like, you need to come pick me up, and this is where I'm going. And I just found this track and tried to get my way out of there, found a main road, and then sat on the roadside for about 40 minutes waiting for them to come pick me up. And it was there that I decided, I was like, yeah, this is it. I've finished. My snow day had just come to an end, and it was quite upsetting at the time, but not in a narcissistic kind of way, but I'm really glad that it happened in the way that it did, because the amount of additional planning that I hadn't done that I should have done, that now looking back at it, had that not have happened, I wouldn't have thought of all the different things. Like, if I'm going to bail, like, where is my bailout? If I get in a problem and I'm going over the top of a mountain peak or wherever, if I hit a problem prior to that, where is my bailout? Where do I go? And I hadn't looked at any of that kind of stuff. And it was only after the fact, when I went onto like Google Earth and started to look at the landscape, and I thought, if I'd have gone left rather than going over it and I had to bail out, I'd have had an easier route down. There was a massive main road. I could have just walked in. It wouldn't have been a nice route. I'd just been walking along the road, but I'd have managed to get back in, probably met up with my parents, done the next few days, and jobs were good, and I'd have finished the whole hike and everything would have been fine. But I wouldn't have had that learning curve and that experience of what I felt near death. I wouldn't have retrospectively gone back and researched that route again to go, okay, where did I go wrong, and why did I do what I did, and where would that bailout have been? So now, having had that experience, I think going into any future hike, my preparation, as much as doing the spreadsheets and all of that kind of thing is cool, I think really analyzing the route from the top down, utilizing the modern tools that we have to really look at it and have a bird's eye view and say, right, that is what it's going to look like. And if you do get into problem, where would you bail out from here? What is your exit route? What would you do? And I think they're the key thing, especially when you're on your own. That was kind of, sorry, I've waffled.
That sounds like it was a pretty dire experience. I mean, that sounded like it was pretty harrowing.
It was horrible. It really, 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 really got to me.
And a lot of people, a lot of non-hikers would listen to that story and say, well, you know, if that were me, I'd never go hiking again. But I think I'm pretty confident in this, that most of our hiker friends out there have had experiences like that, and yet they continue to plan and do more hikes. They don't give up. This is it's part of the experience. And like you did, you learn from it and you plan better for next time. but I think very few of our hiker friends have run into a bad experience and have said, that's it, I'm never hiking again.
No, and I think that base is also, it's like, why do you hike? If you don't, I think that question, why do you do ...
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's what it all boils down to. And I think if the reason why you do ... isn't meaningful, isn't really, it's just a superficial reason,
Mm-hmm.
that's why people don't achieve their goals. That's why people say, oh, okay, I want to lose weight. Okay, well, and then you try to start going to the gym and whatever, and then it becomes a bit difficult, and then you stop because you haven't really nailed down the underlying reason as to what you want to lose weight for. Okay, well, I can't because I want to fit into some better clothes. Why do you want to do that? Because I want to do this. Well, why do you want to do that? And if you keep going through the whys and get to the deep rooted reasons to why you want to do stuff, that's why people actually go out and still hike when they get into problems, because it means too much for them to be, and they get so much from it, more so than what that problem actually brought up.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense. So PJ, what's your next adventure? When are you planning on doing the JMT?
So again, I'm going to go through the same whole process that I did last time. So I think the 4th of January was the first day that I could, because you have to apply 6 months in advance. So that would bring me to a starting point of around, again, 20th of June, with a 28-day rolling lottery, and then just apply and just keep going for that until I get it. And if I don't, then there's things like the Tahoe Rim Trail that I'd like to look at. There's loads of trails. I mean, obviously, since I've got into it, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, there's loads of them. They're everywhere. And some really amazing ones in Europe. You know, Tour de Mont Blanc looks amazing. There's one called the G20, which is, I think, a little bit sketchy, and probably one that I would not probably do just quite yet, because that's probably one of the toughest ones out there. But yeah, there's loads of ones. But I think the JMT is obviously big thing for me, because that's kind of where it all kind of started. I want to do that. Definitely going to redo the Snowdonia Way, the one that I did, just to redo it with more knowledge and better understanding, and to complete it, because like I said, I was 30 miles short of completing, so that kind of niggles away at me a little bit, but not in a bad way, but just to the point of, okay, I need to redo that one.
Sure. Yep.
But yeah, I think I just want to hike it. I definitely want to experience American backcountry. I think you guys seem to really embrace it, and I think we do over here as well, but I think it's more of a part of the culture of America, in terms of how that backcountry and how you go about even just the culture of America, and how it's all developed. It's where it all kind of comes from, is that connection with the backcountry. And I think that's, for me, has to be something that I do, and I don't care where it is. If I don't get on the JMT, then I could potentially do it northbound. I don't know if that is a great idea or not, coming from never having really hiked at high altitude and starting at sort of 12,000 feet, going straight into 14,500 foot, Mount Whitney on day 3, and sort of getting that elevation. I think you don't want to get sick and all that. I don't want it to be a disaster.
Yep. Very good.
So,
well, you're gonna get your permit. I know it. And when you do, you have to give me a call and let me know, so I can come do the resupply over Kearsarge Pass.
Absolute legend, Doc. That's love it.
All right. Hey, Tripod, you know where we are right now?
Go on.
We are at the time of the episode where I ask you for your pro tip insight of the week. What can you share? What insight can you share with our listeners to make their next trip that much more epic?
I I mean, this is difficult for me to kind of, because there's so many different things, but I just think I think for me it was just not listen. I don't know if this is a pro. It wouldn't be a pro tip. I think the planning and the preparation and understanding where you are. I mean, I think that's probably a second for you. You'd just be like, well, yeah. But I think for me, coming from somewhere, if the people, anybody's listening that hasn't or isn't a very seasoned hiker, I think really understanding where you are and looking at it, even utilizing those tools such as Google Earth to look into sort of zoom into certain areas and look at the bailout sort of points and just understanding where you are at any point. So it's familiar if you're not familiar with the area that you're going to be hiking in, just so it kind of gives you that sense of peace of mind that when you do hit it, you think, okay, yeah, no, I remember that. Or take a little screenshot, save it on your phone. If there's any sketchy points where you think, that could be quite gnarly or whatever it might be, then to just have a little screenshot of it and think, okay, yeah, I know that's coming today. And I've got that part to go through, or that's my bailout. For me personally right now, there's loads of other little things like we're talking about, putting the duct tape around the trekking pole for anything like that, or, like Luco tape, I thought was brilliant as like for blisters, and there's loads of little things like that. But I think for me, it was all about the preparation and the planning in order to really fully enjoy a hike. I think the preparation going into that, and that's not just about your pack, not about just the weight and the food and all of those other little things that you just, as a general rule, I think it's the preparation of understanding where you are to really enjoy it, so you don't have those kind of situations that I had then on day 6, even though I'm grateful for it happening, because the research I did after the fact was really made me think, God, why didn't you do that before? But I don't think it could have gone great and smoothly. I don't think I would have probably not have done it, because I wouldn't have thought to do it. I just thought, oh yeah, no, that was cool.
Yeah, great pro tip. Know where you are, know where the bailout points are, because at some point you are going to be in the middle of nowhere by yourself, and bad stuff happens sometimes. All it takes is a twisted ankle or getting stuck up to your waist in a swamp, and you're like, okay, how do I get out of here? And that'd be very important information to have at that point. So thank you very much for that. So there you have it. That's it. Episode 47 is in the books. I hope our listeners enjoyed our time with PJ, and I want to thank him for joining us this week. PJ, once again, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures?
So it'd be on Instagram is NoHike2, so the number 2 ThruHike. That's on Instagram. And then I am starting a YouTube channel, which will be more sort of hiking and fitness and nutrition related. And that's just for me to share my experiences going through that, and just the things that because I'm doing my personal training qualifications and nutritional advisor, but it'll be specific to hiking. So as I learn what I learn, I'm going to share that through YouTube, and it's the same handle on YouTube. And I've got my Snowdonia Way that I filmed. So it's 52 minutes, and it's the first time I've ever filmed anything like that. So it's a little bit work, but so yeah, that's where you'll be able to find me.
Fantastic. Those folks who are prepping for their next big trip are going to stumble upon your YouTube channel and take inspiration from that. So that's great.
Hope so.
All right. Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you have any comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at johnfreakinmuir@gmail.com. Also, if you are enjoying the podcast, take just a minute and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're not enjoying the pod, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself, right, Peach?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a wrap from the John Freaking Muir studio. Any final thoughts, PJ?
Awesome. No, thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed it. And it's now 4:20 in the morning. So yeah.
Well, after you do the JMT next summer, we will have you back on, and we'll coordinate a time that is better suited for you.
Awesome. No, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't care if you've got 5 more hours to go before you make campsite at 1:45 midnight. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.